You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
For hockey fans out there, this week is either just a regular week for you and you're going to work and you're coming home and you're watching hockey, or you're doing all of that while also stuffing your face with Thanksgiving and shopping online. And maybe you're doing both of those things regardless of what side of the border you're on. I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, joined by EJ Hradek, and it is right now Black Friday. Also the day after Thanksgiving in America, American Thanksgiving. Although this is a Toronto show, so it is just a regular Friday. EJ, what was the best part of your American Thanksgiving?
The best part was just having my three children and my wife here with me, and just a very peaceful day. That was the best part of it because, Julie, as you know, in the business that we are in, we are running around all the time, and now that my kids have gotten older, my daughter is going to Boston College. She is not always here, and the other two boys are running around as well, a little bit younger, but still running around. And so it was nice to have everybody in the same place, at least for a day. So that was nice.
That's great to hear. I know, especially for you that you're working all the time and doing so many different games. It was odd that there was no hockey on yesterday. I was looking at the schedule. I was like, did I miss the days of the week, which is what happens when it's the holiday season. Also, what was very interesting was seeing another franchise, the Bears, do something even more insane and stupid than I've seen other franchises do. Clock, timeout, mismanagement for those who weren't following NFL.
It doesn't seem like it should be that hard, Julie. I mean, we grow up, right, and even as kids, we understand time.
Yeah.
And we're taught how it works. And, the seconds, and then as it pertains to sports, the seconds tick off. Even in clocks now, we get the tenths tick off in the NHL rinks. And
that's the one thing you should know is time.
You should be able to see that. And like these guys who get to the highest level, I mean, I'm going to assume that they've coached other games prior to going to the higher level. And so you would think they might have been in this situation before. That was really bad. You're obviously referencing the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
Letting the clock just dwindle down to zero.
Yeah. It was
letting their chances slip away against the Lions. Yes, a very odd strategy, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Also,
but afterwards, the coach said, I thought we were doing what were the right thing. So we'll see if he continues to be employed there.
I love that. Yeah. Just like change. It's like, well, I thought we were fine. Just like completely ignore the fact that what you did was like one of the most egregious errors. One last note on Thanksgiving, I'll say it tried for the first time ever was macaroni with Ruffles chips sprinkled in on top. This was a dish that had been ordered from a restaurant. So it was like, this is a new American delicacy that I had not yet eaten.
Well.
As a Canadian in America who now I'm taking my oath next Friday, so I'm not technically American yet.
Okay.
But I'm semi-American. That was good for me.
You're close.
I'm close. And you know who else is close to having guys come back into the lineup is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The segue of the century. They have 8 guys out as of after their loss to the Panthers, 5-1 loss. But they're going to get some guys back heading into their game with Tampa on Saturday. So, EJ, we've got all these different things going on with the Leafs. We got guys out. Yeah. We got them winning. We got Auston Matthews coming back from Germany. What's your feeling on where they are right now?
I think they're in a good place. I mean, we're just past Thanksgiving, and they've had all these injuries, and they're sitting in a great spot. I believe they're atop the Atlantic Division still. I haven't checked the standings this morning. Didn't change, I don't think, at Thanksgiving with nobody playing. But, I think they're in a great spot when you consider all the things that you point out, missing all these different players and having a new coach and kind of a new way they want to play. And they've added some pieces in the offseason. And they've taken advantage of the schedule, which was a nice, easy ride there in the second half of November. They had 3 games they played in 13 days. And they took advantage of the rest. They took advantage of the schedule. And they're in a good spot. Now, the party's over, Julie, because starting on Saturday in Tampa, the next 32 days leading up to the end of the calendar year, they got 16 games. I believe if you count Buffalo as a non-playoff team, which you'd have to because they're currently a non-playoff team, there's only 6 against playoff teams of the 16. So it's an opportunity to build a little bit more of a cushion. Hopefully, Matthews, it looks like he's going to play Saturday.
Right.
Bobby McMahon got hurt, so we don't know what his status is. Hopefully, they get some of these pieces back. You heard Mitch Marner after the game in Florida talk about, hey, man, we got a lot of guys, we got a lot of guys out here. And, so I think that's starting to – you get to that point where that starts to impact your group. So hopefully they get some guys back, but they've taken advantage of as much as they could, I think, in these first 2 months of the season, Julie, and I think they're in a good spot right now, but the dance is going to get faster with all these games in a short period of time.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make. And when we look at all these guys that have been out and then the guys that have come in to sort of step up, some younger guys, newer guys that might not have even seen any of this kind of ice time had this situation not happen. So if we look at, let's just say, I'm going to put some names out there and you tell me who you like, who you think maybe has done the best or you think could stay. So we got Hradek, Minten, Alex Nylander, of course, Steves. Of these guys coming up during this stretch, who do you like the most and why?
Well, I think Minten has the highest ceiling, right, of that group. So it'll be interesting to see what they do when the bodies come back and they have to make roster decisions. I mean, he doesn't need waivers to go back. And the plan, I believe, was to have him with the Marlies for the year and continue development. So, I mean, that's going to be a decision they have to make if they want to change the plan or not. He's played pretty well in the short period of time. He looks like he's a really smart guy and he gets it. But where is he going to fit in your group, right? Like if he's not going to be playing the kind of minutes that would help him really develop more, maybe he's better going to back to the American League, at least for a while. I like the energy that Brankin brings to the group, and I'm screwed up his name now. But the bottom line is, I like, Hradek. I like the energy that he brings. He's not somebody that you have to worry about. I have to have him play 16, 18 minutes a night. I mean, you could use him in different doses. You could use him at the back of the lineup. I think he's got some thickness to him. He's got to watch it with penalties. He took one the other night, took a boarding penalty early in the game. Florida ended up scoring. So things like that. But I do like his game. Alex Nylander is a good story, obviously, with his brother there. That was fun to see them playing together and getting a win last weekend. But, he requires waivers to go back. So I don't know if there's any fear that they would lose them. And, so of those guys, I think, Minten is the guy that, we have to keep our eye on. But I like, in the short term, Hradek is one of those guys. He's a lot of energy. He's got positive energy. He's kind of a fun guy. And he plays kind of the game, I think, that Craig Berube likes. So I could see him sticking around because you can move him around your lineup and he can play less minutes, and I don't think it really affects what he could bring to the team.
Right. I love that, the energy that he brings, and he kind of pisses people off, but in a good way, that their team, he's good. They need kind of that little chip on their shoulder. And when we talk about how the way the Leafs play and the way that Craig Berube wants them to play, it's like they've always said, it doesn't matter who's in the lineup. They always know sort of X, Y, Z, what they need to do in terms of winning. But when I think about that, it sounds so easy. Guys can just come back and they just hop back in the lineup and boom, it's good. But what is the hardest part, or a part that we don't maybe talk about or see, that is difficult for a guy to come back and kind of get back into the rhythm of still having that script in the way we play, but that is challenging for them?
Well, I think a big part of it, like in Matthews' case, right, he hasn't played, I think you go back to early November against Minnesota was his last game. So he's missed basically a month of time. And you can practice, you can do all those things, to get ready. And, some of the guys have been saying, oh, he looks great in practice. That's all nice. But when the games are played, they're played at a much higher speed. So you've got, and he even admitted, you're getting your legs, getting your lungs, and getting in position to be at your best, to get to the places on the ice that you have to at the right time to play the way that Craig Berube wants to play. So when you haven't played and you've been injured, you've been out of the mix, you have to kind of get yourself up to speed physically and get back into the mix that way. That takes a little bit of time, no matter what people say. So, that is one thing. And also just the chemistry of a group is so hard to predict. I mean, teams go out and get players in the offseason, Julie, and we sit there and we do is we look at them on paper, and this is a playmaker, this is a shooter, this should really work. And at the end of the day, it just rarely plays out exactly as we think. And sometimes the chemistry that we don't expect takes place. So, there's been some guys in this lineup that have added something to the mix. And if you remove them, how does that play into things? And you have a little bit of a different puzzle and a different balance. And obviously it's up to the coach to keep it where he wants it. But, those are some of the things I think, particularly when they've had so many guys that are out and they are hoping to get these guys back in. The good news, I think, is that they've brought in all these different guys and had to use them. And I think generally speaking, they've been very helpful. And they've found out a little bit more about each of these players that they would not have found out if they did not have to use them. So I think like I said, the first 2 months for me, you asked me where they're at. I think there's a lot of positives. The coach has come in. He's given an idea of how he wants them to play. They're kind of figuring it out. They've done so successfully, putting up points. They've been missed players and still other guys that come up and help them out. The goaltending situation at the start of the year, it was supposed to be really Joseph Wall and Stolarz as the two. Now it looks like it's a 1A, 1B kind of thing. Both of them have played well. I just think there's a lot of positives for the Leafs in the first 2 months. Now we'll see where we're going next. And that game the other night against Florida, now they didn't have all their players. Just a reminder that the Florida Panthers are a really good team, and they're a team right in their division.
Yeah, I guess at this point in the season, sort of exactly to your point, is that it's a lot of information gathering. So if you can get points and win, but then also learn sort of more about the intricacies of all these different players, then when it does come time for the playoffs, and hopefully at that point you haven't sewered the second half of your season, but then if guys do go out, you can say, hey, well, we already know all this about this one guy or this guy, and we can kind of, it's almost like making a cake or cooking or something, right? It's like, oh no, we don't have this big ingredient for our cake. One time I made a cake without water. It was so bad. I didn't know you had to put water in a cake. Most unfortunate. That was only like 2 years ago. Anyway, the last
you're making progress.
The last time I cooked was that.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I remember the good old days when I used to use my oven. And so, but then you're like, okay, we don't have water in this. What are we gonna put instead? So you kind of have a better idea. If you just put frosting
and Julie,
on it,
the trade deadline, to that point, the trade deadline will come upon us quicker than we think, right? And that information, as you point out, will help them in determining, okay, do we have something within our group that can help us? Do we need something outside of our group? And how much do we need to pay? And also, other teams see some of these players. And so if the Leafs want to make a bigger acquisition, some of these guys that are playing now that are, showing at least that they can play in the league and they could maybe play in different roles, maybe they have a little bit more value than they had 2 months ago. Totally. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, just to go back to the overriding point for me, I think it's been a pretty good 2 months for the Leafs.
Yeah, win-win. Gotta ask you, because we are outside the bubble, which I think should potentially be part of a segment of this. We're outside the Toronto media bubble, and we listen to it, we watch it, we see it. I listen to so many different Leafs podcasts as well that are in it, like they are in deep.
Day after day, just digging in, and they're digging in on Auston Matthews going to Germany and the doctor situation and all this. And I've read some articles that, have kind of stretched what they think this doctor might be like and this or that and what it might lead to. And I'm not going to name names or anything. I think Steve Simmons wrote a whole column about it.
That's who I'm talking about. I try not to name names, but Steve Simmons
I name names. I like to name names.
What do you make of how Toronto media is discussing Auston going to Germany?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising, right? I mean, like, he's their best player, and he's the captain of their team, and, he's the engine in a lot of ways that drives a lot of things in Toronto. So I'm not surprised that it's a big, big story. I mean, it's, to go to Germany to seek treatment for a health issue, it's something that we've seen before, and it's pointed out in the story that you mentioned. And also, we talked about it last week. I talked about it with Sarah, the fact that, other athletes have done it. Most recently, Christian McCaffrey from the San Francisco 49ers was over there, doing some work there. So, not being a doctor or someone that is really on top of all the latest things that are going on, with the drugs and which ones are legal in different places and which ones are legal in other places. I mean, we don't even know what the injury is to Matthews, right?
Yeah.
People have, I guess, tried to figure it out, but he's been very, very close to the vest. The Leafs have respected that. And so really nobody knows exactly what it is, but it's something that was significant enough for him to go across the Atlantic Ocean to go to Germany. I mean, he wasn't going to Peterborough to see the doctor. I mean, he was going to Germany to see the doctor. So it was pretty significant, but based on, McCaffrey, he's back playing for the 49ers, and other people have gone over to Germany, and different athletes, and have had successful help from the medical people over there. So, I'm not surprised that it's a big, big story. I'm not surprised that people are trying to figure it out. I guess I'm only surprised that when they found out he went to Germany, that somebody didn't just go over there and try to track him down on the streets. But the bottom line is he's back. He's skating. He's close to playing in this game Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're hoping to get Matt Nyes back as well. But I'm not surprised that any of this stuff goes on. I'm actually, to be honest, Julie, I think he's been out for a month and all this has gone on. And I guess the fact that the team has done well, they were 7-2 without him, I think that's maybe mitigated against a lot of the intense coverage. And the Leafs kind of made it its day-to-day. He'll be back soon, and it's kind of stretched longer than people thought. But I actually think it's been less of a story than it could be. And I guess that's for a lot of different reasons, but winning is always something that eases everybody's tension. And the Leafs have been winning 7-2, as I mentioned, in that span. Although they got to start scoring some 5-on-5 goals.
Right, and I think that maybe the thing I was thinking of is just they make it seem like it's so controversial, or like there's something so suspicious about this, like something sinister, and like what else is beyond? Like, oh no, it's like, okay, you went to go see this doctor there. I'm shocked about is that somebody from Pearson Airport, where I think he left from in Toronto to go to Germany, didn't text someone. Like Toronto, first of all, obviously everyone is dialed in with like the Leafs, but like on airlines, when they know there's someone that's like famous on there, they let that information go. That's how paparazzi find people all over the world at airports, or like you can track them on planes. And it's like how he got over there without anyone knowing for like 3 days is still blows my mind. Like, and
listen, who knows how he flew? Maybe he had a private.
He didn't fly private.
Situation.
He flew like literally through. I don't know. Does he have Nexus?
Normal charges, the normal discourse of flight.
He flew with all the regular people.
Yes.
Okay, so just looking at some other stuff here.
Okay.
Some other stuff. Just that's like the title.
Yes.
John Tavares, Mitch Marner contract talks are something that are in the air. Where do you see the Leafs on this right now, or maybe what's sort of like the perspective or anything that you've heard or seen?
Well, I did see a little bit of a story about, Tavares and his agent, or Pat Brisson, I guess, was asked, and they've been like ongoing conversations, but there's nothing at this point. I mean, I would have to think the focus really has to be on Marner more than Tavares. I mean, John has played very well this year, for sure, but I think, it's a bigger contract, a bigger deal, a more important player at this stage of his career is Mitch Marner, and he's playing really well. He seems to be like not being bothered, kind of, by the pressure of this playing in a contract year, which is great news for him. And I think really great news for the Leafs, because you want your players to be performing well. I mean, it doesn't really do you any good to have a guy, hope he underperforms so you can still pay him a lot of money, and then hope he returns to, and then you have some kind of bargain. So, I think this is just going to be continuing to be a story. I don't necessarily get the sense that the Leafs feel urgency. I think they feel like they can get these contracts done if they want to. I think, again, I foresee Marner being back. I'm not as certain about John Tavares, but, I don't think that, this is a team, they have the financial wherewithal to do it. So that's not an issue. The salary cap is going up. We think we know exactly where it's going. So, I think it's just going to be status quo for a while. We'll see. I could be wrong. They could make an announcement tomorrow. But at the end of the day, it seems like, this is an ongoing process. And as long as for Marner, it continues to play well, the number probably continues to inch upward. And, we'll see what happens with Rantanen in Colorado. That's another guy that impacts to some degree, what a Marner would make. So, the beat goes on. But Mitch seems to be focused on playing, and that's the good news.
Yeah, Mitchie's looking pretty good out there. Okay, last question is, we know it's American Thanksgiving time. It's always sort of that barometer, which now because people love to just go back and forth. It's like, no, it's not American Thanksgiving. It's more about December, whatever, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. What is a future headline you have for the Leafs, say in 2 months? We're here now. What's the future headline?
Future headline for the Leafs. Oh, boy. There's so many different ways to go.
I know.
Right?
You could make this really easy on yourself, or you could make it very creative.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, I guess it would probably involve Marner, right? So, the major headline would be, the easy way to say it is that, Marner agrees to a new contract in the next couple of months, right? But I don't necessarily see that. So, I think that's going to be a longer process. Boy, that's such a good one. Maybe it's Leafs consider trading Tavares.
Ooh,
whose contract is up. Well, whose contract is up, and they may feel like he has value to them, and they could add pieces to their puzzle, to help them now. So maybe that'll be the one I'd go with. Again, it's just a guess moving forward, because I think they love having John there, and at least for the rest of this season. But that could be something over the next couple of months.
I appreciate you swinging for the fences on that one.
Why
because
not?
You could just say Leafs win tight contest against the Lightning.
Leafs rape Hawks 3-2.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday night in November. Or
bounces
December.
Off of a shin guard of a nobody player, and they win. Okay.
Yeah. Felix Potvin to return to crease for the Leafs.
Oh, man. Remember the Curtis Joseph rumors a couple years ago, because he brought in his gear, and I think he was playing in a alumni game or something. Everyone's like, wait, this was maybe last year? I don't know. They're like, Cujo, come back in. Can you play for the Leafs?
Yeah. I've talked to Cujo over the years. He has no desire to come back in.
I know. Even though everyone's like, come on, you'll be just like you were 20 years ago.
Yeah. It'd be like Mike Tyson. It went so well for him coming back.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
EJ, thank you so much for your time. We know you got to get set for Habs and Rangers, as well as all the 1,000 shows that you are hosting and doing. Thank you for your insight, analysis, and bringing the heat.
All right. You got it, Julie. See ya.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.